This week on DW Grows.
I've been through a lot and I will bite about it. I'm not angry, I'm just extremely aware. I can handle anything until I can't. I'm still young, but I know what I deserve.
They're ridiculous, but they're also living beings with very real needs. So let me show you how I actually care for them. For me and my 4 runners, Olive, Pepper, Truffle and Butter, the day starts right around 7 a.m. They're early birds, or well, early ducks, and I start to hear their chattering as soon as light hits their coop. The female ducks, hens, have a more conversational, louder quack compared to a quieter, more raspy quack of drakes, male ducks. My first job is opening their coop door, and every morning it's the exact same stampede of excitement or intrusion if I've somehow deviated from the schedule. They sprint around and flap at me at a surprising speed, and this initial bout of madness is insane, but it might actually be one of my favourite parts of the day. They're just so full of excitement and it's infectious. And since they don't technically fly, they just run and waddle around in circles in their coop, and the whole thing just gets even crazier until they settle down. Then the first order of business after all of that excitement is to anticipate their breakfast. They size me up, and whilst they're sizing me up, I'm sizing them up too. I'm doing a quick visual health check. I'm looking for things like bright eyes, clean feathers, and that perky upright stance that they're known for. Any sluggishness would be an immediate red flag for these super active foragers. I check to collect any eggs. Runner ducks are prolific layers. A good strain can lay easily around 250 eggs a year, and during the warmer months it can feel like I'm getting an egg from each duck every single day. That adds up fast. They don't lay all year round, and during the colder months around winter they will take a break, so we don't get eggs consistently. And unlike chickens, they don't require nesting boxes. They don't tend to have an instinct to be very broody or sit on their eggs and try and hatch them. So they just lay where it's comfortable, there's a fresh bedding of straw, and it tends to be in the same place every day. And it feels a little bit like an Easter egg hunt every morning. Now, occasionally they will surprise me and lay an egg as they're foraging in the garden, and that's always fun to find. But it tends to be around early morning that they lay their eggs in the straw and I can collect them. Now that the eggs are safe and the ducks have had a nibble, let's have a look at what they have for breakfast. This might seem like a complex part of their care, but once you get a basic understanding down, it's quite simple. If there's one thing you absolutely have to know, is that ducks should never ever be given dry food in isolation. Always give them food with water nearby. They need immediate access to water to be able to swallow and process their food. And eating dry pellets without it could be a serious choking hazard, or even once they've managed to swallow the food, it can be a serious case of bloating. Because of this, their food and water stations are always very close by. For my 4 laying age ducks, I stick to free feeding. In the morning, I give them their main meal, which is a high quality layer pellet. Since my ducks are laying, they need a feed with about 16 to 18% of protein and extra calcium for strong eggshells. Ducks typically don't overeat, and I've never experienced it with mine. So I check periodically throughout the day to see if they've knocked it over or if they've got through it all. In the winter months, they tend to eat a little bit more to make sure that they stay warm. I measure out about 1 large cup of food for each duck per day. The little dish I have tends to do that quite nicely. When they're out of their pen, they are amazing foragers and will hunt for things like slugs, bugs, and little bits of food to enrich their day. So when that happens, this feed is a supplement rather than their main food source. When we first got Butter, the smaller and rounder one of the 4, we noticed that she had a limp. Now, one thing I would recommend is looking around your area and seeing if there are any avian vets, because they can be tricky to find. After doing some extensive research and speaking to the people that we got Butter from, it turned out that she had a niacin deficiency, which caused her to have a limp. So with that, a source of niacin can be brewer's yeast, which could be sprinkled onto the top of their duck food. But Butter decided she was going to be very picky about what she ate. So when we sprinkled the brew as used, she wouldn't eat it. So that meant that we would have to administer a small dose of niacin to butter each day, as well as give her Epsom salt bath soaks to help ease her joints with the limping. And it was amazing because within a matter of 2 weeks, she was fully better and just sprightly as ever. She's always remained small, but I think that's just a mixture of her being part runner duck and part khaki Campbell. Her sister Truffle has inherited the long runner duck stature, whereas Butter is just a bit round. Because she wasn't the biggest fan of having this niacin administered, she learnt to bite. When I say bite, their beaks are a bit like a nail, a very thick nail, so there's no teeth there, but she just sort of tries to pinch at you, and I kind of love it. I love it. Stick up for yourself, Butter. Never lose that. Another thing to mention is that some people vary in this. They either do it every 3 months or every 6 months. But for a week, the ducks will have laying pellets that also have something called Flubenvect in it. And that is a dewormer treatment. They'll have that and then they'll return to their normal food. This just prevents them getting worms, which is something that can be fatal for ducks. Now, let's talk about the water. Oh, the water. If there is one con to keeping ducks, it's the unbelievable mess that they make with it. They don't just drink it, they play in it, they wash in it, they do everything with it. They will turn it into a muddy soup in the blink of an eye. But it's vital for their health. They need constant access to clean water that's deep enough to submerge their heads in, to clean any dust or straw out of their eyes and nostrils. For drinking, I fill a large DIY bucket with sanded holes that they can stick their heads into. In their pen, this large basin is big enough for them to splash about in. When they're outside, they have access to their larger paddling pool. Seeing them so happy makes the daily water changes so worth it. Now, keeping their space clean and dry is one of the best ways to prevent health issues like bumblefoot and any respiratory infections. I use the deep litter method in their pen, which means I start with a thick, deep layer of bedding like pine or straw. And instead of mucking it all out every single day, I toss a fresh, thick layer on top and layer over any dirty spots. The ducks help turn it over and the lower layers begin composting, which is great for the garden, but also is a source of warmth for them. This method is a great way for managing waste and odour, and then I do a periodic full clean out and chuck that into the compost. This means daily upkeep is quick and resourceful. Now, we were really lucky when we moved into here, this pen was already existing and it's designed perfectly for ducks. It has a sheltered back section for them to hunker down and rest for the night, and their space is about 15 foot by 5 foot. This gives each duck about 1.5 to 2 meters squared of space each. This is both a generous amount for them to sleep in, even though they like to sleep huddled up, but also big enough for them to run around and be in the pen during the day when they're not being watched. It's also well ventilated to handle moisture, but is predator proof. That part isn't optional. At night, this house is their fortress. Their pen is where they spend a lot of their day, so it needs to be secure and interesting. The fencing is buried a few inches underground to stop any predators that might want to dig underneath. It's also over 4 feet high. This keeps the ducks tucked safely inside. Now, as I've mentioned, these ducks are fantastic foragers and will spend hours hunting for any pests, which is great for the garden. When I say pests, I mean things like your slugs or snails that might want to attack some of your brassicas. And unlike chickens, they don't scratch or tear up the ground, so most of the plants are okay. However, with 4 of them in one space, they will happily turn any patch of land into a mud pit. So I'm always keeping them contained and rotated around the garden evenly. By midday, the ducks have settled into a nice rhythm. This part of the day is for foraging or for napping in the sunlight or just chatting around with their girly pals. Oh, and don't forget more splashing, of course. I just find their upright posture just so unique. They look like little bowling pins. It's during this time that you really see their little personalities come out. And despite the fact that they like to waddle around in a little group, you can really see the dynamic between them as they chatter to each other. It's just lovely to see. When they're in their pen, I love giving them midday snacks and treats too. Not only to supplement their diet, but also for enrichment. Their absolute favourites are lettuce, kale and peas. I'll toss a handful into their basin, they go crazy for it. Or sometimes I'll sprinkle them on some fresh straw and they like to rummage underneath it and squabble with each other at who found what first. Now this is one thing that I want to mention, and it's a matter of personal preference. As much as most predators operate at night, I personally don't like to let the ducks out without supervision. I like to put them into temporary fencing in an enclosed area where I'm actively watching them. Now this works well because I work remotely, so I can do that in my lunch break or times where I've got a slow afternoon and work from the garden. But I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving them unattended. A fox could easily get in over the fencing or in from the fields behind the house. There are also large birds that can swoop down and take them, so I personally like to keep a watchful eye, and they're very happy and content with the ample space that they have in their pen. Now when I'm giving them a midday treat, it's also a good opportunity to offer them something that has a protein kick, like mealworms or calciworms, which also go towards their calcium quota for those stronger eggshells. And to be honest, it's a bit of midday entertainment for me too, watching them squabble amongst each other. Now ducks are amazing at finding their own food sources too when given the space. As I said, I like to rotate them with the temporary fencing to target specific crops that have maybe been ravaged by slugs, and it's amazing to see them get to work as they get their heads really low and snoop around trying to find something to nibble on. Now this isn't just me putting them to work, it's a vital part of keeping them active, engaged and healthy. They need that stimulation and enrichment. Now once they've had their fun, they'll tend to find a shady spot and rest for the rest of the afternoon, or head back to their pen with a bit of convincing. That's usually when I'll do a midday water refresh too. As the sun begins to set, the energy begins to shift. The frantic foraging of the morning and afternoon gives way to a much more relaxed pace. Evening routine is all about getting them fed, secured and settled down for the night. About an hour before dusk, I'll check their feed to see if they've finished it all for the day. It's really important that ducks go to bed with full tummies, especially in winter, because that's when they'll use all their energy to keep themselves warm at night. I'll occasionally then give them another treat of some mealworms or peas, just as a last little bonding activity before bed. If they've been out in the afternoon, I will use those peas to bribe them to get back in their pen, and it works every time. Now once all four are inside, this is probably the most critical part of my day that brings me endless worry: locking and securing their pen. As I said, predators are most active at night, and their only defense is their pen and the urgent quack they do if they feel threatened. I never ever leave them out after dark. Their little chatter fades as they settle down together on their straw bedding. Ducks don't roost like chickens, they just settle down the floor together for warmth and safety. Knowing that they're happy, well and tucked away for the night is the perfect end to a day of duck keeping. So there you have it, a full day in the life of my forerunner ducks. From the morning egg hunt to the endless splashing and the evening tuck-in is a routine filled with purpose and a whole lot of personality. While they definitely required consistent daily care, and the joy and the entertainment that they bring make it all worthwhile. They are incredible layers, delightful garden helpers and wonderful companions. Hopefully answered some of your questions about what it's like to keep up with these wonderful little birds. Every setup is different and we all find our own rhythms, but I'd love to hear about your experiences. If you keep ducks, what's your #1 tip for managing their daily care? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful and you want to see more of olive, truffle, pepper and butter, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more homesteading adventures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.